Welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Laura. The Hawks are
Andrew.
officially all the way back. The NBA regular season has begun. And of course, if you're like Alex, who was texting us in the group chat, I'm ready to be hurt again. Well, I hope you're ready to be hurt very much again, because the Hawks basically are what they are. I'm not going to make too many big proclamations about one game. I mean, Trae Young and DeJounte Murray combined for 7 of 33 from the field. You're not going to win any games in the NBA, most likely, if they shoot that bad. That's not going to continue. I think we can all confidently say that. But there was a shining bright spot in all of this. And this is the reason for optimism that we were talking about coming into the season. Jalen Johnson looked like a guy who could be a potential John Collins replacement, and even better, because what he brings to the table as a playmaker, getting out in transition, as a ball handler, stuff like that. He has 21 points, career high, 9 of 13 from the field. He came off the bench in this one, but I would not be surprised one bit if sooner rather than later he is in the starting lineup, because he's a difference maker.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And when we were talking about Sadiq Bey earlier this week and how, why it was probably best to let the year play out and see if you're going to hand Sadiq Bey a big contract and see what the market says. He's part of that reason, man. If he had just come out and played like a superstar, well, you don't really need Sadiq Bey. Now, one school of thought is you could just trade DeAndre Hunter, which I wouldn't be opposed to because I don't think he's really worthy of that contract. But we'll have to see how the year plays out. We'll have to see if he can keep this up. It is just one game. But, this is what we've been waiting for. We've been waiting on this for what feels like, well, it kind of has been like 3 years.
Yeah. DeAndre Hunter looked lost. And again, to y'all's point, you both mentioned it. One game, let's not all freak out. Trae and DeJounte played horribly. That's not going to continue. And it wasn't just Jalen Johnson, who is going to be addition by subtraction. John Collins, everybody, all I've seen all offseason, I'm still high on the Hawks. I think they could be a top 6 seed. I think that, a lot of people just look at the roster and think, well, they just got rid of John Collins. How is this going to be any different? Addition by subtraction. Jalen Johnson is not going to fill the John Collins role. It's an entirely new role itself. I mean, John Collins is a ball stopper. Jalen Johnson isn't only, continuing the flow of the ball movement. He's excelling in that area. He is a difference maker in that area. He's ultra athletic. He's a point forward. He's very versatile on the defensive end. He's good in transition. He looked very efficient near the basket. This is a guy who I would not be shocked. Like you said, Chase, I wrote it in an article. I mentioned it. Go check it out on the site, sportstalkatl.com. That, sooner than later, he should be in the starting lineup, because we're in year 5 or 6 of DeAndre Hunter, and it's been the same struggles the guy has. It's the same struggles, and I don't know really how long of a leash Quinn Snyder's going to give DeAndre Hunter. I get it. 82 games. We're trying to gear up for the postseason, trying to figure each other out. The offense didn't click at all, but that's just to be expected. First game of the year. Quinn Snyder's got to get that right, and I'm sure he will. But not just Jalen Johnson. The bench as a whole, it may be one of the best benches in the NBA. Obviously, if Jalen Johnson goes in the starting lineup, it gets a little bit worse. But Bogey looked good. Onyeka Okongwu looked good. Jalen Johnson. Jake mentioned Sadiq Bey. This is a very deep team. It's just got to have to work out the kinks. Everybody's got to assume a role.
Yeah, they're going to have to figure out the Trae Young, DeJounte thing, how they want to, taper their minutes and who needs to be on the floor with each group, because is DeJounte going to lead the second unit and come out a little earlier than Trae Young and stuff like that? Because that's still a little awkward fit to me. But if they can taper the role correctly and to where they're not always on the court at the same time and they each have a chance to lead the offense, I think that's something they're going to have to figure out. They're also obviously going to have to figure out, whether Jalen Johnson belongs in the starting lineup. They're going to have to figure out whether Onyeka Okongwu belongs in the starting lineup. It might not be long before we see Jalen and Okongwu in the starting lineup and guys like DeAndre Hunter or Sadiq Bey and Clint Capella coming off the bench. But there's a lot of stuff that they still have to figure out that they weren't going to just figure out in the offseason and in the preseason. So this first, month or two of the season, expect them to be trying out a lot of things, and that's going to lead to probably meandering results where they're probably looking at 8-8. But if they can figure that out relatively early in the season, I think that's going to help them a lot later in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I did want to point out one thing that that Quinn Snyder, to your point, is kind of, they call him a mad scientist. So I expect maybe even below 500 play for maybe a month or two, like Chase said. But the point is, trying to just figure out this team because, like I said, this is a 9-10 man team rotation, and that's a lot of different moving pieces, and we're not quite sure who is going to be a part of, the Trae Young group, the DeJounte Murray group. So I'm still very high on this team only because of Quinn Snyder. That is the only reason, but I'm still very high. I'm not going to be discouraged by the first month or 2 months. Now, if we get closer to the All-Star break and we're still, just barely keeping our head above water, then I'll start to worry. But until that point, I won't worry. It's more about the process than the results for this team at this juncture in the season.
Yeah, I mean, really the only thing we have to take away and looking forward over the next several games is that Jalen Johnson did look like a star. And if he can keep playing like that and keep improving off that, the Hawks might have something here that could be much more special than we originally anticipated. Coming up after the break, Falcons, Titans, Week 8, we're going to give you our predictions.